Good morning, everyone. Yes, you passed. You passed the loyalty test. I'm all of 3 minutes behind. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. That's nothing. That's nothing. I make up in quality. We're not going to miss a minute of testimony. Not 1 second. Not 1 second. 3 minutes. I know I'm 10 minutes late here, but in court time, it's 3. Let's do this.
Versus Karen Reed.
All right. Good morning again, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Reed.
Skip this part here.
Did you follow the instructions?
They followed instructions. We had Dan Whitley on the stand. I think he's coming back. Look at that time already.
Remind you, you're still under oath. Thank you.
This is Dan Whitley.
Yes.
Mr. Whitley, yesterday you testified that when Karen Reed was brought to the hospital, she didn't want to get into a hospital Johnny and she didn't want to give a urine sample. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
It was clear to you that her reluctance to cooperate at that time was because she very much wanted to check on John's progress and status at the hospital, correct?
No, I don't believe that to be the case.
Well, you testified before the grand jury regarding this matter 3 years ago, didn't you?
I don't believe I said that she was
I
reluctant.
didn't ask you that question. You testified before the grand jury 3 years ago, didn't you?
I testified before the grand jury 3 years ago.
You were under oath then, as you're under oath today, correct?
Correct.
You swore to tell the truth.
I am telling the truth.
You swore to tell the truth in 2022 before the grand jury, did you not?
I did.
That was less than 3 months after you brought Karen Reed to the hospital, didn't you?
Yeah.
And your memory of what happened at the hospital was very good in April of 2022, right?
As good as today.
Your memory in April of 2022 was very good, wasn't it?
It was very good as it is today.
Okay, so you want to add the as it is today, despite the fact that you weren't asked that question. Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained.
All right. When questioned by Mr. Lally
Argument.
at the grand jury, you were asked the following question. So what, if any, interaction did you have with her, meaning Ms. Reed, at the hospital once you were there? You remember that question, right?
I do.
And your answer was, so after that, I helped escort her down to, they call it the psych hallway, where they have rooms set up for psychiatric patients for their evaluation. And then she was unhappy that she wasn't able to see him, meaning John. And she kept trying to. She didn't want to get into a hospital Johnny. She didn't want to, I believe, give a urine sample. She was not, the nurses were asking her to do certain things that every patient has to do, and she was not cooperating with them. Do you remember that answer?
I do.
So 3 years ago, when you testified about this issue of giving a urine sample, you testified under oath that you believed that she didn't want to give a urine sample, correct?
Correct.
Yesterday, 3 years later, you testified with certainty that she didn't want to give
This is going to be a theme of the defense.
Yeah, she was giving them a hard time about having to give a urine sample.
Right. No, I'm asking you about your testimony yesterday in contrast to the grand jury.
The theme is going to be
to the extent that I ask
distinguish
yes or no
last
question,
testimony from
I'd
this
like yes or no
testimony.
answers.
So
okay?
no instructions to the witness, Ms. Giannetti. Ask a
The witness be
question.
instructed to answer the question yes or no if it calls for a yes or no question. Answer.
Answer the question that's asked of you. Okay.
Okay.
So go ahead, ask a question.
You testified yesterday that she didn't want to give a urine sample without saying it was your belief that she didn't want to give one, correct?
Correct.
In any case, were you aware that when she was asked to give a urine sample, that Ms. Reed had gotten her period and did not have a tampon?
I was aware she was on her period, yes.
You're also aware that when somebody is
that explains driving the
hospital
car
for
backwards.
Section 12, they have no privacy.
Maybe she did try to
Isn't
kill
that
him.
right?
They have medical privacy. Either the tech or the nurse would be with the patient at all times.
Okay. with them at all times, observing them at
Observing
all
them,
times,
correct.
correct?
So they wouldn't be, she wasn't in like a hallway open to the public.
Understood, sir. But she also, when I said privacy, what I was asking is, she was not allowed to go to the bathroom alone to give a urine sample, correct?
She was a psychiatric patient.
Right. So she would have to use the bathroom in front of hospital personnel or some medical personnel with people watching her while she was on her period with no tampon, correct?
I would understand that to be true.
All right. And you're aware that she did cooperate and eventually give a blood sample as well, correct?
I'm not aware of a blood sample, but urine sample, yes.
She did give the urine sample.
Correct.
Now, in your testimony yesterday, you discussed the topic of your memory of what Karen Reed may have asked you about John surviving in the snow with light clothing. You remember those questions?
I remember asking about not having a jacket, correct?
Now, starting at the end of the day, when I cross-examined you yesterday, I asked you about that topic, and I said to you, you mentioned something about hypothermia, that you assumed you may have been dealing with a hypothermia situation. And your answer was, well, she said that he had been out in the snow without a jacket for many hours, correct?
Correct.
But before I cross-examined you at the end of the day yesterday, you previously testified 3 times about this topic, correct?
I believe it would be the grand jury and the previous trial.
Right, and direct examination when Mr. Brennan was asking you questions before I stood up, correct?
Okay, yes.
Let's start with the first time you testified about this topic back in 2022. That was
Show
again, less
every
than 3
change.
months
This is what we're
after
going to
you
see
had
for
a
the next
conversation with
6
Ms. Reed
weeks.
at the scene on January 29th, correct?
Correct.
Her statements and questions to you at the scene were fresh in your mind in April of 2022, correct?
Correct.
In April of 2022, before the grand jury, Mr. Lally asked you, quote, what, if any, questions did she ask you regarding hypothermia? Do you remember that question?
I do.
Your answer was, she was just wondering if he could have survived outside in the cold, even though he didn't have a jacket on. Do you remember giving that answer?
I do.
Nowhere in that answer in 2022, less than 3 months after these events, do you attribute the words, quote, many hours, end quote, in the snow to Ms. Reed, correct?
Yes, I was not.
I'm not asking for an explanation, sir. I'm asking for an answer.
All right, so he was answering you, Mr.
My
Yannetti.
question
No,
called
he
for
was
a yes
justifying.
or
That's
no
crap.
answer.
Why are you
Nowhere in your
interjecting, Judge?
answer in 2022 do you attribute the words many hours in the snow to Ms.
It's
Reed?
a yes or no question.
Or
That's
no?
not-
No, I did not say that at that point.
Nowhere in your answer in
That was ridiculous for the
2022
judge to jump in
do you
there.
testify that Ms. Reed told you he had actually been in the snow for many hours, correct?
She did. At that-
Sir, I'm asking you about your testimony.
So let him answer the question.
Let me ask it again. Nowhere in your answer in 2022 did you testify that Ms. Reed told you he had actually been in the snow for many hours, correct?
In 2022, I testified that I was just told to be brief and give generalizations.
What?
She quantified many hours in the snow when we were back at the
Let
ambulance.
me try this again, sir.
So,
because
Mr. Yannetti, you're just saying 2022. Get to a
Of
date
course,
and a
yes.
place.
April of 2022, okay, before the grand jury. My question again, and I'm still seeking a yes or no answer from you, okay? Nowhere in your answer in April of 2022, before the grand jury, did you testify under oath that Ms. Reed told you that John had actually been in the snow for many hours, correct?
Not in 2022 of April, no.
Okay. The next time you testified under oath was last year in 2024, correct?
Correct.
During that testimony, Mr. Lally asked you, oh, by the way, so 2022 is no mention of many hours, right?
I did not, and I was told to be brief on the grand jury stand.
But again, no mention of
Correct.
many hours in 2022. Okay. Now, 2024, last year, Mr. Lally asked you, so Firefighter Whitley, at some point, specific to your conversations with the defendant, Ms. Reed, can you describe sort of her demeanor or any observations you made in relation to that as you were speaking with her? And your answer was yes. She was very upset. She kept asking if there was any chance. She kept asking us if we knew if the person ambulance 1 had transported was alive or dead, and we could not speak to that. She asked if somebody could be alive in the snow without a jacket for many hours, correct?
Correct.
So 2022, there was no mention of many hours. 2024, over time, now that's the first time that you mention the words many hours in your testimony regarding this case, correct?
Correct.
Right? And
Seems shifting
when
around
you
there.
testified
Shifting around.
last year,
Shifting around.
you testified still that she was asking you a question about surviving in the snow, correct?
Correct.
So then we come to yesterday on direct examination. Do you recall that Mr. Brennan yesterday asked you, before you left, were you having any conversations with the defendant? And you answered yes. Recall that yesterday?
Is that at the hospital?
I'm asking you yesterday, do you recall Mr. Brennan asking you before you left essentially the scene, were you having any conversations with the defendant? And your answer was yes.
You're talking about Lee, I'm just trying to make sure we're talking about the same instance. Are we talking about when we left the hospital or when we left Fairview Road?
When you were at Fairview Road, leaving Fairview Road, we're talking about the same subject of what Ms. Reed supposedly told you or asked you. Okay, Mr. Brennan went into that with you.
So on the way to, you're talking on the way to the hospital in terms of left, when we left.
Well, before you left, he meant before you left the scene.
Okay,
When
no,
you
I'm
were-
just trying to clarify.
Again, the same conversation, Mr. Whitley. I'm not
So,
trying to trick you.
Mr. Yannetti, he just asked for a point of reference. It's clear. Now go.
Understood. And Mr. Brennan said, can you share with the jury what those conversations were about? And your answer was, so we were talking, she was upset. She kept asking if there was any chance her husband could be alive, even sitting outside in the snow without any coat for many hours. Do you recall that answer that you gave yesterday on direct examination?
Yes.
And that was the first time that you mentioned that she said supposedly or asked supposedly about him sitting outside in the snow, correct?
I was just using phrases generally speaking.
Not my question.
I wasn't at that point I was paraphrasing. I was not speaking verbatim to what she said.
Let's try that again. That was the first time that you mentioned that she claimed or asked that he was sitting outside, correct?
It could have been sitting, laying, being.
Let's try it a third time.
So
Was that-
just ask the question, not let's try it.
Sure.
Let's try it.
Was that the first time that you testified under oath that Ms. Reed said or asked about him sitting outside?
Are you asking me to clarify whether she used the
I'm not
word
asking
sitting?
to clarify anything. I'm asking you whether that was the first time yesterday during direct examination that you mentioned that she asked about him sitting outside.
I'm sorry. I am very confused because I'm trying to figure out if he was being outside, sitting outside.
I'm asking you about Ms. Reed's statements, sir. That's all I've been asking you about. Her
Okay.
statements to you and your testimony about her statements to you. Was yesterday on direct examination the first time that you testified under oath that Ms. Reed mentions the words sitting outside?
I don't know.
All right.
I'm just using, she might have said laying outside, being outside, outside.
Okay, so when you testified yesterday before this jury
Yes.
that she mentioned the words sitting outside, you're now saying that that might not have been accurate, correct?
It could have been a different word.
Okay. But you didn't say it could have been a different word yesterday. You just left it as sitting outside, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to make a point about what he's doing. He's trying to show every distinction in any words he used during any testimony. Now, this is a strategic call by the defense counsel. When it comes to things like that changes that are actually imputing additional guilt to Karen Reed, that are newly infused into his testimony, that I certainly understand pounding on and pounding on, making a distinction between whether he said sitting or being, and trying to show this could irritate the jury that you're being a little nitpicky, that people are not going to say the same words every single time. Or it could just be that they want to try and develop a general theme that their testimony is continually evolving. And even if it seems nitpicky on this one, it's not about this particular thing, but it's a matter of just showing, look, they just keep changing and changing. And every time it seems to make it like in order to impute additional guilt to Karen Reed that they didn't have the first trial or during the grand jury proceedings. But so they might just want to, that might be the overarching theme that they're going with going forward. So sometimes it'll be nitpicky, sometimes it'll be something that seems highly significant. This one, for example, seems a little bit nitpicky about sitting versus bit,
That's what I said.
sitting versus being.
All right, so now we get from, the grand jury with many hours mentioned, to questions about many hours, to sitting outside, to let's talk about what you said on cross-examination.
I object.
Okay, the objection sustained.
Sure. On
Just don't say, let's talk
cross-examination,
about.
your words were, she said he had been out in the snow without a jacket on for many hours, correct?
She had asked if he had been outside, if there was any chance he could
That
be
part's
alive,
big.
even though he was outside without a jacket for many hours.
So it always was a question, correct?
It was a question.
She never said what you said on cross-examination yesterday, which was she said that he had been out in the snow without a jacket on for many hours. That was not a declarative statement by Ms. Reed, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Was that a declarative statement by Ms. Reed?
She asked if he could be alive without a jacket in the snow for many hours.
So again, it was a question, sir.
She asked me, and we were just trying to give her hope in terms of telling stories of hypothermic patients that could survive outside in the snow.
Okay, is there any redirect?
Briefly.
Okay.
When you were called to the grand jury, was the testimony as in-depth and as long as it is in front of this jury?
No, not even close.
When you're recounting your memories of what happened, do you memorize word for word what you said in the past?
Objection.
As to that form, it's sustained.
When you're recounting the past, do you record your statements personally?
Objection.
I'm going to let that one. Do you
I think-
record your statements?
No,
Next question.
When you testified in the grand jury, page 90, line 15, and you said the defendant told you, I'm upset if he dies, I want to die. And then you later testify last year, and you said, if my husband dies, I want to die. Do you notice the little differences between those phrases?
I do.
Is that you making up words?
No,
Is that you trying to help a case?
These are the prosecutor.
As to form, that's sustained.
Are you inventing facts?
no,
Sir, when you were recounting what happened that day, are you using your best memory?
Objection.
Leading.
When you were asked
He's
by the defendant,
trying to lead him to make this point for the jury. He's almost okay with it.
about how long, or someone out in the snow without a jacket for many hours, do you remember that conversation with her?
I do.
Where were you during that conversation?
We were in the back of the ambulance.
Do you remember it distinctly?
I remember it distinctly. She was looking at me.
When you tried to give her hope and comfort and you told her stories about other situations where people, maybe children, have fallen through the ice and had hypothermia, did you have that conversation with her in trying to comfort her?
I did.
Do you remember that conversation?
I do.
Did you necessarily share those conversations with the grand jury?
I don't recall if I did or I didn't.
Did you ever write that in your report?
No,
Is it something you typically put everything in your report?
no, we do not write. Generally, we only write patient complaint, what happened, what they did, not their opinions or anything like that to what's going on.
Do you have any interest in the outcome of this case?
I do not.
How long have you been a firefighter for?
Since March of 2006 and an EMT since November of 2002.
Over 20 years.
Correct.
You said that you live near Kerry Roberts?
I do.
You've been to a block party for the kids where you've brought the fire engine down?
I do.
I'm going to allow it.
When you're at that block party, do you ever step out and have secret meetings with Kerry Roberts trying to corroborate some conspiracy on their behalf?
No. No.
Put your career on the line?
All these objections are about leading.
No further questions.
Any follow-up, Mr. Yannetti?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Firefighter Whitley, you are all set.
The reason why leading questions are not permitted by the direct is because it becomes the lawyer himself testifying. He basically tells a story, and the person says yes, yes, no, yes, no. They're telling it's the lawyer testifying essentially, as opposed to cross-examination. There, it's completely permitted.
And his mother leans over the kitchen island and says to me, I think it looks like he got hit by a car. It looks like he got hit by a car.
All right, who's your next witness, Mr. Brennan?
Next witness is Gene DeMoulis.
It seems like if I'm in the same with Jerry, I'm like, why did we just see that? What happened? Why did we see this? It really, the defense, even though
Okay.
that video they wanted to admit it right after the mother testified because she seemed like a very sympathetic figure yesterday. Very sympathetic. It doesn't have nearly the same sting the next day. It doesn't have nearly the same sting. So even though she allowed it in, and I don't think she should have, because there's no benefit, there's no probative value at all whatsoever. And if anything, maybe a transcript of it, it seems insane to me that she allowed this in as I'm looking at it now. Like, what the hell is the point? Other than just making the jury, trying to make the jury hate her, which is a reason to keep it out. Specifically, that is the reason to keep it out because it's just prejudicial. Still, the prejudice is greatly nullified because you don't have fresh in your brain right now the image of the grieving mother crying about her son's death. Because that was Karen Reed, like snarkily imitating the mother, yelling that he looked like he got hit by a car. I think we might have caught up. We're very close.
You tell me swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case now here.
What's your name?
The whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes, you can speak. You can scooch in close to the microphone. Thanks.
May I proceed?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Jean DeMulis. I am the general manager at CF McCarthy's in Canton.
I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up if you would, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
You said you're the general manager at CF McCarthy's?
In Canton, yes.
How long have you been the general manager at CF McCarthy's in Canton for?
For 6 years.
Can you briefly describe for the jury what CF McCarthy's is?
It is a restaurant and bar.
At CF McCarthy's, is there a video surveillance system inside?
Yes.
This is
Who
going to
owns
be
that
good now.
video surveillance system?
CF McCarthy's.
Are you familiar with the video system?
Yes.
Have you ever looked at it before?
Yes.
Do you employ people to help the establishment with the video system?
No,
You maintain it on your own?
Yes.
At some point, were you visited by somebody from the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes.
Were you asked whether or not they could view some of your video surveillance?
Yes.
Do you remember the date? Not the date they came to visit you, the date that they were looking for.
I believe it was January 28th, 27th, 28th of
Around that
2022.
time?
Yes.
Did you allow access to the video system?
Yes.
Did you oversee that access to the video system?
Yes.
Was it a state police officer?
It was two state police detectives.
Do you remember their names?
I remember one of the detectives' names. I do not remember the other detective.
The one you remember, could you share the name?
It was Detective Buchnick, Yuri.
Detective Yuri Buchnick.
Yes.
At some point, was he allowed to download information from the surveillance system?
Yes.
Did you watch him do that?
Yes, I did.
At some point, have you been able to briefly look at some of that download?
Yes.
And does it appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the surveillance or the area of your bar?
Yes.
Move to introduce.
okay, there's no objection, Ms. Giannetti.
There we go. There we go. Let's start watching them having party.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I play just a small portion?
Sure.
Thank you.
Supposedly she had 8 drinks during 2 hours.
Ma'am, I'm going to show you just some random shots from this video, but I want to know if you recognize it. Is this the inside of C.F. McCarthy's?
Yes.
I'm not asking if you have any particular knowledge or information about that night. I just want to know is this a fair and accurate depiction of what C.F. McCarthy's looks like?
Yes.
Has there been any substantive, significant changes to the inside of that establishment
No.
since this video was taken?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay,
I have no questions.
all right.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So that was to familiarize the jury with what the interior of that bar looks like. I thought that we were going to get some video of them actually being there that night. But maybe another officer is going to be introducing that now that the jury
Your
knows
next
what
witness,
that
Mr.
bar
Ryan.
looks like.
Thank you. Bridget Meehan.
Good morning. Good morning.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now hearing to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Good morning. Good morning.
May I proceed?
Yes,
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you introduce yourself to the jury, please?
My name is Bridget Meehan.
Where do you work?
I work at the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton.
The name maybe tells us a little bit about it, but could you just share a couple lines of what the Waterfall Bar and Grill is?
It's a small family.
There's a second bar they went to.
It's in a mixed condo complex.
Are you involved in the ownership of it?
Yes.
How long have you been involved with the Waterfall Bar and Grill?
We've been there approximately 10 years.
Do you help run the establishment?
Yes, I do.
And you were running the establishment back on January 28, 2022? At some point, were you asked or visited to see if your establishment had video surveillance of the inside?
I was.
Does your establishment have video surveillance of the inside?
It does.
Do you have a camera and a server?
Do I have? Yes, I do.
Did you provide video surveillance to the Massachusetts State Police from that night, January 28, 2022?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'd like to move this in as an exhibit, please.
okay. Ms. Giannetti?
No objection.
Thank you.
With the court's permission?
Yes,
Thank you. Ma'am, I'm going to show you just a brief clip. Okay, stop, please. Do you see that video?
I do.
Does that depict the inside of McCarthy's?
No.
I'm sorry, the waterfall?
Yes.
I was trying to switch establishments on you. Back on January 28, 2022, does that look the way it looked then?
Yes.
Has there been any significant changes inside since then?
No.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay.
No questions.
All right, Ms. Meehan,
Thank you.
And I'll just step going down.
And I guess it makes sense that you don't, that now that it's established, you want people who are more familiar with the investigation
All right, your next witness, Mr.
or the
Brennan.
relevant parties to testify about what we're seeing in these videos that they will be showing during the course of the trial. Videos would show Karen and John at the bar, and perhaps other players here. We'll see. And yeah, that is a crappy video.
You solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case now hearing from the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Take the stand.
Good morning.
May I?
Please.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, good morning. My name is Michael Camerano.
Mr. Camerano, can I ask how old you are? I'm sorry.
Spell your last name.
Camerano.
And so if you could either move the microphone down a little bit or speak up, or maybe a combination of both, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask you
Really
how old you
nervous.
are?
48,
Where do you live?
Canton, Mass.
How long have you lived in Canton for?
Me and my wife have lived there for 20 years. Me and my wife have lived there for 20 years. We have 2 children.
How old are your children, sir?
My daughter is 17. My son is 14.
Did you know John O'Keefe?
Yes.
How did you know him?
I met John for the first time at his sister's they had a benefit for his sister in 2000, I think 13. I met John there for the first time. Then years later, our kids got involved with sports together and they became very close. As they became close, I became very close with John and his family.
Was your daughter close with John's niece?
Yes.
Was your son close with?
Yes.
Did you spend a lot of time together through sports and socially?
Yes, we did.
I want to take you forward to January 28th of 2022.
Okay.
Do you remember that day?
Yes.
Had you, without any discussion of what might have been said, did you have any discussions with John that day?
Yes.
Did you have a plan?
Yes, we were communicating.
At some point, did you decide that you were going to spend some time or go meet John?
Yes. That Friday, my daughter and his daughter, they got acceptance letters to school. So we wanted to get them together so they could enjoy the time together. And, just, go over like how it'll be so much fun, something new, different. Yeah, so we were going to meet up after I got out of work.
Was your daughter planning to go to a new school?
Yes.
Where?
Bishop Fan.
And how about his niece?
Same.
They both got accepted to
They
the
both
same
got
school?
accepted to the same school.
Was it a celebratory move?
Yes.
Did you have a plan to bring the children together so they could celebrate?
Yes, we did.
And then separately, you were going to meet John and celebrate?
Correct.
Where did you drop your daughter off?
I dropped my daughter off at John. I went into John's. I was at the house with John and the girls, and we had a little celebration. Talked about how nice it's going to be, fun, change, different, meet new people.
And you celebrated at John's house before you went out?
Correct.
After the celebration with your children, did you and John leave?
Yes.
During that celebration, was there anybody there other than you, John, and your 2 daughters?
No. No, Karen was not there.
Was there anybody else there?
Nope, just the two girls, myself and John.
What was the weather like that night?
It was cold. It was not snowing yet.
Was there an expectation? For
Yes,
the
there was an
next morning?
expectation. Yes,
What was that?
that there was going to be a big snowstorm coming in.
A storm was coming.
Yes.
When you left, did you leave in a separate car than John, or did you leave together?
Now, in order to sort of set the scene, the judge will allow them to ask leading questions to sort of get things going, but he is asking a bit much.
No, we left together. John got in my car, and
Instead,
we
you
were
say,
leaving.
what happened
We were gonna
next?
leave.
What did you do next?
Where were the girls?
The girls were in the house, stayed in the house.
They were staying at John's house.
Yes, correct.
Where did you go?
We went to CF McCarthy's.
When you got there, did you know anybody who was there other than you and John?
At that time, no.
Did you spend time at CF McCarthy's?
Yes.
Were you drinking?
Yes.
Was John drinking?
Yes.
Alcohol?
Yes.
How long were you there for?
A couple hours.
While you were there, did anybody come and meet you that you knew?
Yes.
Who?
A friend. And then Karen came in.
The friend.
Yes.
What was the friend's name?
Kurt.
And then how long after you first got there was it that the defendant arrived?
I would like to say within an hour, so not 100% sure.
You said back home it was a celebratory mood. Was it still a celebratory mood at McCarthy's?
Yes.
When the defendant arrived, did she spend time with you and John?
I've talked briefly to her, and her and John were mostly talking.
Okay. You didn't see any issues?
No.
That's really
It was a normal night?
Oh, my God.
Seemed to be, yes.
As far as you could see?
Yes.
And you saw John drinking?
Yes.
Did you see the defendant drinking?
I saw her with a glass, yes.
Did you leave at the same time that John left?
No, I did not.
When you left, was John still at the establishment?
Yes.
When you left, was the defendant still with him?
Yes.
Why did you leave?
I left because I got a phone call. My son was playing hockey in a backyard, and he got hit with a stick and lost his tooth.
Oh. Where did you go?
I went to my son's friend's house.
Do you know about what time that was when you went to see your son?
I would like to say 9:30, in between 9:30 and 10.
You didn't go back to McCarthy's that night, did you?
No, I did not.
After you helped your son, where did you go next?
I went to pick up my daughter, Madeline,
Did you go
at John's house.
Did you go in John's house?
No, I did not.
When you got to John's house, did your daughter come out?
No. We went to the side door and rang the doorbell.
And then what happened?
And then my daughter came to the door.
Where did you go?
From there, we left and went home.
When you went home, had the weather changed at all?
It was cool. It might have been flurrying at that time.
No accumulation?
No.
You got home?
Yes.
Did you do anything significant when you got home?
Put the kids to bed, my son, and no, I went to bed.
What's the next thing you remember happening?
Waking up to, I missed some phone calls.
Who were the missed phone calls from?
From my wife and Karen.
I think everyone
What
in
did you
Boston
do?
drinks and drives.
Called my wife.
After speaking to your wife, what did you do?
I got in my car and drove to John's house.
About what time was this?
In between maybe 5 and 6 a.m.
What was your mood at that point?
I was panicked
Why did you go to John's house?
because I went to get Kaylee.
Did you know if she was alone?
Yes,
How long did it take you to get to John's house?
maybe 5-7 minutes.
When you get to John's house, what do you see?
I pull in the driveway. I see that the garage door is open. I go in through the garage door. I don't know if Kaylee was standing there, if the door, she came out the door, and I asked her, if she needed anything, she could get in my car and stay warm.
When you first saw Kaylee, what did she look like?
She looked distraught.
Did you try to help her?
Well, I think I just said everything will be okay.
Did she come with you?
Yes,
Where are you going?
to my house.
So what happens?
So we go to my house, and my daughter's up, and the two girls are just.
I don't say I feel terrible for these kids. They've seen so much death. Their parents dying, now the uncle caretaker. You feel bad for the mother, obviously, but kids are the ones who have to live with this on a day-by-day basis.
They were hanging downstairs, just hanging out, just being kids. And then, I don't know, a couple hours later, maybe, Paul called me and asked me to bring Kaylee home.
Did you know anything at that point?
I did, yes.
You did or didn't?
At that point, I did when Paul had told me.
So what do you do?
Ask Madeline and Kaylee if I'd say, Madeline, we come for the ride. I don't say anything to Kaylee, and we get in the car, and I start heading back to John's house.
What a hard drive.
And you didn't say anything to Kaylee?
No, I didn't. I just said everything will be all right. She had a feeling.
Why do you say that?
She didn't want to go home.
So what happens next?
So I pull in the driveway, and I remember Paul and Papa standing. I think they were standing at the side door, and we just embraced.
Did you stay?
No, not long. No.
Did you go back?
I was to the house. I went back to my house.
Did you go back to John's house?
I did the next day. Yes, I was there.
When you went back, were there people there?
Yes,
Many?
there was people coming and going.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Cameron.
Good morning.
You tread lightly here if you're the lawyer.
This is quite painful for you to remember the events of January 28th, is it not?
Yes,
You were very close with your friend John O'Keefe, correct?
I was close with them. Yes,
And you actually met Karen Reed through John, correct?
correct.
After meeting Karen, you spent a good amount of time with both Karen and John, correct?
Correct.
As of January 28th of 2022, you had known Karen for maybe about a year or so,
Sounds correct.
and you'd see them especially on Fridays, correct?
Correct.
That would be sort of the day that you get together with both of them often.
Yes,
And of course, your children spent a lot of time with John and Karen, right?
correct.
You entrusted both Karen and John with your kids.
Yes,
Sometimes your kids would even go on vacation with Karen and John, right?
they did go to the Cape. Yes,
Sometimes you'd see Karen without John at your house or on a ball field. And your daughter in particular would sometimes spend time with just Karen without John, correct?
I think if you can help use him to establish that everything looked happy when he left, saw Karen and John together, that would be what I'd be looking for here. But there could be other information I'm unaware of.
correct.
your daughter would sometimes go over to Karen's house in Mansfield when she lived there, correct?
Correct.
And obviously, when your daughter would go to Karen's house in Mansfield, Karen would be the one in charge of caring for her, correct?
Correct.
And you were fine with that because you liked and you trusted Karen, right?
Correct.
And in your view, Karen was very good with kids, right?
Correct.
See?
But you also had the opportunity to see Karen and John together, right?
Yes.
You saw how they interacted with each other over that year period that you knew Karen?
Yes.
You saw how they got along?
Yes.
And you never observed any arguments or bickering, correct?
I mean, they argued and bickered.
You had previously testified that you wouldn't even call it arguing, you just call it banter, right?
Yes. I mean, he would, I mean, no, he would get upset or like over if she bought expensive things for the kids.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to pause. From the state's perspective, they just want to portray the scene, lay out there who was there, that they were drinking, that there was a good time, put Karen in the bar together with John and that left behind there, sort of trace their steps to lead up, because it's a circumstantial case. There's no eyewitness to this alleged murder. So you want to sort of make sure you're putting her and them together, and that when this friend of his, who's a sympathetic figure very clearly, last left them, they were still left together, and that they're busy drinking. From the defense's perspective, the reason you have this guy up here is to establish that John and Karen had a very healthy, happy relationship in general, that she was a good person in his eyes, and that when he didn't see them fighting that night. That's why this guy is here. No one's going to go after this guy.
We'll get to that. That would be the one thing that John would complain about, Karen buying like very nice things for his niece and nephew, right?
Correct.
Or he'd complain if, Karen was taking his niece and other girls to get their nails done, like extravagances like that.
Correct.
And one specific memory you have is when Karen bought his niece a very expensive sweater, right?
Correct.
And you recall John telling you that he wished that she hadn't done that because he considered that to be spoiling the girl, correct?
Yes.
But it was very clear to you from your observations that Karen really, really liked John. I'm sorry, John really, really liked Karen, right?
Sustained.
He certainly never told you or even suggested he was thinking about or planning to break up with Karen, right?
No.
Okay, so with regard to that Friday night, January 28th, sir, the plan was for you and John to go to McCarthy's to have some drinks because there was a storm coming.
Sorry, I missed that earlier,
and
brother.
Because of the celebration of the girls getting into Bishop
I
Fenton.
should have gotten this before.
Yeah, we were going out. It wasn't a continuation of the celebration of the girls. We were going out to have a few beers as guys.
Okay. And when you were leaving the house, John asked you to move your car, right?
Correct.
Where was your car when John asked you to move it that night?
I backed up my car. We were leaving the driveway, and John asked me to stop so he could move his car.
I see. And he wanted you to move your car because of the storm coming in, and he wanted Karen to be able to pull her car into the garage, right?
Correct.
And that was really thoughtful of him, wasn't it?
Yes, extremely.
And it showed you that he was being chivalrous toward Karen that night, right?
Yes.
He didn't want Karen to be out in the heavy snow later when she returned to his house during the expected blizzard, right?
Sustained.
So speculation.
You took from that there was an expectation that Karen would be coming back to his house, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You had no inkling that day that anything was wrong between Karen and John, correct?
No.
Everything seemed fine between the two of them, right?
Yes, he did mention though that night that he didn't understand why Karen had a plumber go to the house.
Because he had somebody that could have done that work instead of paying for the plumber, right?
Not that she
Yes.
Okay.
And,
Not that she was cheating
But
on
in
him
any
with
case,
the plumber.
the plan was for Karen to meet up with the two of you, right?
Yes.
And she did show up to McCarthy's at about 8:30 p.m. or so?
Yes, I guess,
And-
if that's the time.
And you saw an affection.
I'm sorry, what was the answer that you
If
said?
that was the time, I'm not sure about the timeline.
Okay. It was sometime after you'd
Yes.
gotten there. Right.
Correct.
But you do remember when Karen arrived, there was an affectionate greeting between John and Karen, right?
Yes.
You saw them kiss, right?
Yes.
You saw John put his arm around Karen,
Correct.
and you saw that Karen sort of nestled into his embrace.
Correct.
And when she did that, that's when he kissed her, correct?
Yes,
And they seemed happy to see each other, did they not?
they did.
That night they were affectionate,
Yes.
laughing,
Yes.
happy,
Yes.
like a normal couple.
Yes.
No arguments.
No.
You witnessed no bickering, no tension, correct?
And all of a sudden, she's going to kill him.
And during the month before John's passing, that January of 2022, you observed their relationship in your presence to be normal, caring, and affectionate, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
It was a good job. It was a good job. Because he seems so highly trustworthy, and he's got firsthand knowledge watching them all the time. This was.
You were asked a number of questions about the relationship between John and Karen that night. Do you know what was going on behind closed doors other than what you saw?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Why?
No.
It's ridiculous. It's a leading
Do
question.
you know whether or not they texted each other that day?
No, that day, no.
Do you know whether or not there was any arguments that day?
I'll allow it.
Not to my, no, I don't know if they were, well, I don't know if they were arguing over the plumber situation. I
Do you
don't
know
know.
if there's any vulgarities that day?
No,
Do you know if there's any vulgarities that night?
no, not to my knowledge.
Do you know whether or not John was trying to end the relationship with Miss Reed?
Do you know that, sir?
No,
Next question.
Do you know if there was any jealousy in that relationship?
I'll allow it.
I mean, I mean, Karen wouldn't let, I mean, they did everything together, a lot of things together. And I thought at times, yeah, you could see, she didn't want other women around John. I don't know, not at that, but
Thank you.
You follow up? All right, Mr. Camerano, you're all set, sir. I'll see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'm losing faith in this judge. I'm not really liking this. Why is Karen Reed going up there? That's a weird thing that she goes up there. If I was her counsel, I would tell her, you sit your ass down in that seat and you stay there. Because I'll tell you why I don't like it. It's very unusual to see a client actually approach the bar for a sidebar. Maybe it could be different in criminal trials, but the criminal trials I've observed, I haven't seen the defendant go up to the sidebar. The reason I wouldn't like this if strategically, is I think it's a bad look. It's a bad look because it makes her look like she's authoritative. It makes her look like she needs to be involved in everything. It makes her look controlling. And the last thing you want is for the jury to look at her like she's someone who is going to put her thumb in every situation, because that just makes it seem like the more of a type who's going to be aggressive and that sort of way. I would be telling her, you are going to sit your butt down in that chair on the sidebars. I don't know what the hell you're thinking coming up there in the first place. It's a bad look. It's a very, very bad look. If I was sitting in the jury, I'd be like, why the hell is she up there? She has to insert herself into everything. I understand that this is her case. It's her trial. She might be curious, but it's just not her place to be there. So, yeah, I this is weird. It's weird. That's what you do when you're the client. You want to look helpless. You don't want to look like someone who has a capacity to commit murder. Why? What does that mean? I joined the rest of the law tubers. I don't know what that means. Now we have the ceiling fan. So I think that I think that defense counsel on this last witness, I like the way he handled the last witness, but the redirects that were coming there, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. There could have been jealousy. It's like, this is all speculation. It's leading. There's so many problems with it, and it's just, you're telling now a narrative to try and plant seeds when he's obviously obviously he doesn't know what's going on behind closed doors. It's not a matter of him. You're just trying to frame rather than using him as an eyewitness. That was very unimpressive by the judge to allow all that crap in there. That was very unimpressive. So, yeah, you can have. Okay, so here's the thing. Michael's saying I've seen defendant have headphones to hear the sidebar. That doesn't, and that's possible. That's possible. That doesn't look quite as insinuating. Like she needs to go up there and start yelling at the judge herself. It's a very bad. I would never do this. I would be really bothered by my client coming up there. I'd be like, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. And when you tell the client they're shooting themselves in the foot, they'll listen and they'll stay there.
May I?
Please.
I'm going to recall Nick Garino.
Okay.
Nick Guarino. He was the guy who examined the phone. The cop who examined the phone. He was on yesterday. We heard all about Cellbrite. And how he extracted all his data from the phone. Both of their phones, Karen and John's.
Parliament, please.
Sure, you can have a seat. I'll remind you you're still in your.
Or stand, however you're most comfortable today. Just do whatever you need to do, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, everyone.
Sir, yesterday we talked about downloading phones and making what you called extractions.
Yes.
And from that data, you could create different types of reports.
So have Detective Garino say his name again, please.
I'm sorry. Again, for the record, could you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the record?
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Nicholas Guarino, Guarino.
Thank you.
Sir, you mentioned yesterday that you downloaded a number of phones, or you were involved in the process of downloading a number of phones.
It's her right.
You
It's just
explained
stupid.
to us that after you have the data analyzed, you can pinpoint certain items that you may want to put in a document.
Yeah, so the extractions into a program of our choosing, Cellbrite is the most commonly used.
I'm just going to say, she may have a right to be up there. You have a right to run it. I have a right to run a cheese grater across my thighs. I just think it's a stupid idea.
And then we can take call logs or text messages, any information that the investigator is looking for.
When you downloaded Mr. O'Keefe's phone and you downloaded the defendant's phone, did you try to create, or did you create a report through Cellbrite, the software, that would show you all of Mr. O'Keefe's call logs?
Yes, I did.
And when I use the term call logs, what does that mean?
The call logs are the calls that the phone receives.
How do you create a report from Cellbrite? Can you just walk us through that process briefly?
Yep. So in the program, you can go in and select the calls from it and export it into different formats, PDF, XML, HTML, or you can create a portable case and extract them all as a portable case that we would see on my computer.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you a document of Mr. O'Keefe's call logs. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is it?
It is the call logs. Just want to make sure it's between John O'Keefe and the defendant from, just want to see the dates, the 28th, January 28th, 2022 to January 29th, 2022.
Would this contain all the phone calls from his phone data, the calls between those two parties that night?
Yes, that's what I created.
Thank you. I'd like to move this as an exhibit, please.
Okay. So,
If I could, Your Honor, just want to compare to make sure we got the same.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Thank you, Mr. Brennan.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Consent.
okay.
No objection.
You captured all of the phone calls between two parties on that last document. Can you also do that with chats?
Yes, that is true.
And did you do that in this case?
Yes, I did.
Did you create a document of chats between the phones of the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe for after midnight for the evening hours of January 29, 2002?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm good.
Morning.
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us what that is?
These are the texts from the defendant to John O'Keefe. Yes.
For January 29, 2022?
Yes, that's correct. I'm sorry.
I move this as an exhibit, Your Honor.
Okay.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Exhibit 24.
Did you identify or specify chat messages between John O'Keefe and a person named Jen McCabe?
Yes, I did.
Did you create a Cellbrite report?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
Yes.
All right, let's see the dirty laundry. Let's see it. Such a soap opera.
Can we have just a brief moment, please?
It's sidebar?
No.
Just the two of them?
Compare them what we have.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Sir, I'm handing you a document. Do you recognize it?
Yes, this is the text messages between John O'Keefe and Jen McCabe on 29th on January 29th, 2022.
And this is through a search of celebrating you match their data, all of their conversations.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I move to introduce this, please, Your Honor. No objection, Your Honor.
25.
Maybe he asked her to Google house long.
Similarly
die
to
of
the chat,
hypothermia.
did you do the same with calls between Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. McCabe?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I think one of them is definitely going to put him on the stand. Probably defense.
Showing you a document, sir. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is the call log between John O'Keefe and Jen McCabe for, just want to make sure I get all the dates correct, just for January 29th, 2022.
To evidence, Your Honor.
Okay.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 26.
Did you do a file extraction and a report on all chats between the phones of John O'Keefe and the defendant for a period of time?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Getting you a document. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is the text messages between John O'Keefe and the defendant from January 28th to January 29th, 2022.
Your Honor, move this into evidence.
Okay. Mr. Lessie?
No objection, Your
All
Honor.
right. Thank you.
Exhibit 27.
Did you have an opportunity to make a report from some of the data from the defendant's phone from January 29, 2022?
What are you referring? I did make some reports from the defendant's phone.
What's a call log report?
Again, the call log report is the calls that the party makes to another phone. So it's going to show everyone they've called or attempted to call.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to take a look at this document. Do you recognize it?
Yes,
And could you tell the jury what it is?
it's the call log from the defendant's phone for January 29th, 2022. It looks like everyone she called.
Introduce this as an exhibit, please. No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Exhibit 28.
What we just introduced into evidence is the entire call log of calls to anybody and everybody to and from for that period of time.
Yes,
That's fair to say?
yes, that's correct.
And then can you further isolate calls between just two parties?
Yes, you can. You can search by phone number or name.
And did you do that with the defendant's records for some parties?
Yes, I did.
Did you isolate phone calls between the defendant and Ms. McCabe for the evening of January 29, 2022?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
Yes.
Guys, take a look at this document. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's the phone calls from the defendant and Jennifer McCabe, January 29, 2022.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'd like to move this into evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Exhibit 29.
Did you isolate calls between the defendant and Ms. Roberts for the night of January 29, 22?
Yes, I did.
Can I see the last exhibit, please? Thank you, sir. And as you take a look at that document, do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Could you share with the jury what it is?
Yep. It's the call logs between the defendant and Carrie Roberts for January 29th, 2022. Yes.
And that's a report you created.
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I move this into evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Exhibit 30.
Did you have an opportunity to isolate and produce a report for all chats between the defendant and Ms. Roberts for the night of January 29, 2022?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
So I'm handing you a document. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And could you share with the jury what that is?
This is text messages between the defendant and Carrie Roberts on January 29th, 2022.
I would move this to evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Jurors, this is the way we have to put evidence in cases in Massachusetts, okay?
Exhibit 31.
So do you have an opportunity to identify a text message or a chat between the defendant and a person by the name of Ingrid on the morning of January 29th, 2022?
Yes, I did.
May I approach?
Yes.
Take a look at this document. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
Could you tell the jury what that is?
Yes, this is a text conversation between the defendant and looks like a group chat between Ingrid Curtis and Bill Curtis.
And did you make that report?
Yes, this is on January 29, 2022.
Thank you. And move this to evidence, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Exhibit 32.
How many of these are there? So we're coming to a break.
If this is a good time, if Your Honor would permit.
Okay. Jurors, what we're going to do is we will take our morning recess now, and we'll take 20 minutes to a half an hour.
20 minutes to a half hour. 20 minutes to half hour. 20 minutes to half hour. All right, there we are. There we are. Yeah, I'll argue with you all day about this. I see some people telling me it's her right. They didn't let her use the headphones, all that other stuff. I'll tell you right now, I'll argue with I'll stand by this position till the cows come home. I'll even make a welcome home cows sign. Okay? Because no, I don't like the idea. If it's my client, I don't like the idea of her looking like someone who has to be there. A lot of judges don't allow the client to go up there. They're like, you have counsel. That's why you have counsel. They're going to represent you, and they're going to come up here and argue for you. There's no upside to her being there. No benefit. She can't talk to her, the judge. So all she's doing is nosing around and eavesdropping. And you have to sort of sit back and look calm. So, yeah. So we got we're all caught up now. Well, that's good. That's a good thing. But no, I don't think you have a human right to be present for a sidebar. You have a right to be at your trial. And that's not a human right. That's an American right. That's a due process right. But to go up there for the sidebar, no. This is one argument about one particular issue. No. I don't think that if a judge said, no, you can't come up here, I don't think that would be a deprivation of your civil liberties. I don't know why you're saying a human right. I don't even know what a human right really actually means. We don't operate with respect to human rights. We operate with respect to what the law. The human rights may have been the inspiration for why it is that we have, how we formed our civil liberties. But at the end of the day, you're not protected by a human right. You're protected by the rights that the state recognizes. Again, I'm not saying that she's not allowed to do it. She's allowed to sit there sticking 3 fingers up her nose throughout the entire trial. I just think it's a poor tactic. There's a difference between what you're allowed to do and what seems like a wise thing to do. Let's eavesdrop. I'm gonna eavesdrop. I'm gonna eavesdrop on Nick. Let's see what we got going on here. I'll poke my head in there. Should I poke my head in on Nick? What do you think? Hey.
Quite a joke. Like if you think about this though, if you have to bring in someone to testify as an expert about using certain drugs in certain ways, who would you prefer to have it to do it? Someone who's done it and also knows the legal system, or just some random guy? But no, I don't. I wouldn't claim to be. I think it's a funny joke. But well,
there you go.
But how you gain expertise? So Andrew mentioned voir dire. I mean, lots of people seem to have obvious expertise, but they're not the only experts around. If you go watch My Cousin Vinny, you can voir dire someone who does not seem to be an expert mechanic at first glance and based on prejudices. And if you don't know that chick, you don't know that she knows everything about everything going on under the hood of a car. But they bring her up, I don't know
what he's talking about.
Mr. Gambini brings her up on the stand.
I know about My Cousin Vinny.
And clearly, the prosecutor in that case is able to ask her questions about her knowledge about being a mechanic, and she's able to deliver answers sufficient to qualify her as an expert.
That's a bullshit question.
It's not a right question.
Never.
They didn't make the Chevy with a posi traction in 1959.
Because it's impossible. No one can answer that question. Marissa Tomei. But
she was great in that.
Never ever devalue practical experience just because some dork in a college or a lab says they know what happens. I mean, I would trust a heroin user to tell me about how to use heroin over a lab tech who has put heroin in mice. But only if you're talking about how to use it, right? Like that's anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I observed this guy just said what you were noting earlier. $20 super chat. This guy extracted data from Matthew Farwell's phone and Sandra Birchmore, found 0 texts. Later, expert discovered 33,000 texts. Yeah, I observed a trial one time. I wasn't involved, but it was a civil case that involved a car crash. And one of the issues was speeding. And they had a couple guys who had observed the car approaching the accident site. And they wanted to be offered as, the lawyer wanted to offer them as experts as to the vehicle's speed.
No, you cannot.
And of
be
course,
both
they
an
were
eyewitness
challenged on
and an
this.
expert.
And on voir dire, it turns out that these guys, their hobby was they would go to the local drag strip and bet each other on the speed of the cars as they came down the drag strip to within the nearest mile. And they put money on the line with each other. And the judge said, sounds like an expert to me, and let him testify.
If they do that all the time, though, you get a feel for how fast something's going. Like if you see something hundreds to thousands of times, you get really good. Like your brain gets really good at that pattern recognition, identifying it. It takes about this long to get there. They're probably going about this fast. Sometimes
that's how cops used to do it before radar.
Mm-hmm.
They would go to a racetrack and observe cars at different speeds and train themselves to see what a car looks like when it's doing 30,
you disagree
40,
with me
50,
about
60,
her.
80,
I'm going to have a
1,000
poll
miles
on
an
this.
hour.
I have to have a poll on this.
I wonder if cops do it now when they don't have the radar on.
I'm not talking about whether she has a right to do it.
Whatever. Someone can just look like they're going fast.
She obviously has a right to do it. She has a right to go up there. I'm not saying, because if she didn't, the judge would tell her to sit her ass down. I'm simply saying it's a dumb move. But apparently, some of you are disagreeing with me. So I'm gonna put a poll up on this. I'm very, very curious whether All right. Let's put a poll up. Let's do that. Let's start a poll. Is it a wise move for the defendant to join counsel at sidebar? I'm going to spell it the way they would pronounce it. Sidebar. Yes, no, or I'll have it. Doesn't matter. There you go. Is it a wise move for the defendant to join counsel at sidebar? Yes, no, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to screen what's happening, what you're all saying in Rumble as well.
That's the way I'm getting out.
I
of
like
the next
seeing Nick
ticket.
healthy again.
Scott Chrissy Jones says, if I get a ticket, I'm in trouble. Scott Chrissy Jones says, everyone is a Karen apart from the actual woman called Karen, it seems. If Karen Reed whacked John, then the Yaira live action trailer was good quality. Oh, damn. They have not sold me the story that Karen Reed in any way caused, certainly not intentionally, the death of John. I'm not convinced unintentionally either. But we got a long trial to go.
Yeah, so the statute is intentionally killed or acted with extreme indifference to human life, knowing her actions could cause death. So I don't think they're going for intentional. I think they're going for extreme indifference.
Man, they're going to have to show me how the injuries on that man are consistent with a car hitting him. So she backed up again. So forgive me. My understanding of the injuries that have been testified to so far are hematoma and then the lacerations.
They said there was a slight injury in the back of the head.
Right? They called them lacerations.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, so lacerations from mid forearm approximately to upper bicep, lower deltoid. And I think if they haven't testified to it, they're going to testify to a back of the head injury, which they will say knocked him unconscious, leading to the hypothermic death. That's my understanding, but that full testimony I don't think has been elicited yet. But that being said, I have a hard time believing a car backs into someone sufficient to knock them unconscious and the only place it hits is the front
Doesn't hit the knee. Doesn't hit the
above
leg.
the eye, causing hematoma.
Why is
but
there
they
no
then
bruise
fall-
on the leg?
But there's no damage to the body. Like this is a car. I mean, this is a 3,700-pound Lexus.
Going.
I mean, I
going
guess in
3/4
theory, you could
maximum
argue she could have caused the death with extreme indifference simply by racing the car at him, compelling him to try to dodge out of the way, slipping and falling and hitting his
Sure.
head. And then
Right.
there wouldn't be any car impact at all. But the prosecution is arguing impact here.
That's the arm.
Yeah, it's just-
arm injury.
I mean, okay, so and there, someone says she somehow got up to 27
know.
miles per hour backwards. So
Nick said he did not
assuming
watch the
that they're
first
going
trial.
to say that. So you've got like a 3,700 pound Lexus SUV. I'm guessing on that, but it's coming backwards at almost 30 miles an hour. You've got a person completely unprotected by anything other than their skin getting hit by this car, skin and clothing. I mean, that's a lot of force. That's not an impact that is always going to be fatal unless there's the other circumstance, the back of his head hitting. Makes sense if that actually happens. But where is the other injury? Where's the bruising on
has
the
to be
ribs,
something on the
breaking of
leg
ribs,
or the knee or the
you know,
thigh
fingers
or something.
getting busted, a leg getting ligaments getting torn,
Yeah.
anything getting trapped under the car as it's back, as it hits him.
This is very hard for me also.
I don't know what
Unless he
position his
dodged the
body's in.
car
I
like
still don't
Andrew
know how you just get
speculated.
hit right here. It's like, oh, well, he's got a hematoma right here.
How did he
on
get
his head.
that?
Yeah, I don't. So all the shards, all the scratches, lacerations in his arm, I don't understand how you get that from the shattered lens, but you don't have any bruising on the arm.
That makes no sense
Yeah.
at all.
And we know he was bruising for some time because he had that, the right side of his eye swelling was not there at the scene, but it was much worse later in the hospital.
Left one.
So there was still some biological function. It wasn't an instant death. Swelling requires you to be alive for that to happen. There's no bruising on the arm. That looks like a taillight bomb went off next to it. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, they put an IED in that taillight to get the glass to shatter outward and lacerate all of these places. I mean, the light fixture's this big, tell me the physics of this smashing into someone and then going at them. Sufficient that a piece of plastic, like mind you, these pieces of plastic or polycarbonate
Yeah, that sounds
have
crazy.
to come at sufficient
I hadn't thought about
velocity
that.
to
That's a
make
great
1-inch gouges down through your skin into like all of them are obviously into blood. Like these are not like light cuts, they're deep cuts, not down to bone as far as I can tell, but these are not like surface level scratches and scuffs. These seem fairly deep. So I don't understand the physics of it. I'm not a physicist. I'm a literature and creative writing idiot who became a lawyer. So I don't know. Maybe someone can show me, but I'm trying to figure out how something this big blows outward inexplicably and cuts this arm in the pattern. I wonder if we could pull up that picture. John O'Keefe arm wounds. Here we go. Images. Yes. I want turn safe search off. Oh no, it's just porn. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. So here I've got a picture. There is some just to warn everybody, there's a little blood on this. So if that makes you queasy, Andrew, if you want to pull this up. Almost there. We got this guy right here.
Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. That's what I meant to do. Yep.
So again, we've got
no bruising.
An arm. They're all going in the same direction. So we're supposed to believe that this thing blew past. Like this is a cut across the arm. How does this make sense in their scenario?
I don't know how a tail light, which is what 5 inches by 5 inches, 6 inches by 6 inches, leaves a injury field that's 2 feet long.
Not 2 feet, but it's
Right.
a foot and a half. Yeah, it's about 18 inches.
And well, as men measure it, it's actually 1.5 feet. But No, and again, this is a thing that is impacting allegedly this body.
Makes no
So
sense at all.
How is it bursting out to come across and make these cuts? Maybe the horizontal cuts could be made that there's a jagged edge if the car swipes his arm.
But the
But
stuff
if the
by
car
his
is swiping
forearm,
his arm, I'm not seeing what is knocking him unconscious. Because there is a jagged edge kind of on the side front. It's the wraparound taillight cover that is missing. And there seems to be part of it left that's jagged up on the front. So I guess maybe if the car's like coming across his arm, you could see that. But then I don't see the unconscious or the force sufficient to knock him down.
and also wouldn't
knock him out.
scratch up his forearm.
It doesn't make sense. What it looks like to me is I don't remember the type of dog that they have, but they have a very large dog, or had a very large dog that was rehomed very quickly after this, with a history of biting, from what I understand. Man, if they could introduce a dog bite case evidence file from that dog, consistent wound pattern, that would seal it. Actually, maybe not. But yeah, that's I don't know. I'm not seeing a coherent theory of the prosecution's case yet, other than, and I don't want to undersell this. I think people are going to be very tempted, especially YouTubers who watched the first trial, and there's this sort of public idea about Karen Reed's non-guilt, and I'm in that camp of Karen Reed's non-guilt. But I think there's going to be a temptation to overlook just how fucking damaging it is to have statement after statement after statement that can be interpreted as, I did it. I hit him. 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 They hit that. That's their first witness. I hit him. I hit him. I hit him. Now the defense did a good job dismantling it. But at the end of the day, they're going to get up on cross or on at closing argument, and they're probably going to say, I hit him. I hit him. I hit him.
Yep. Keep your mouth shut, guys.
And that's going to be the opening statement. And then very shortly after that, when they start talking about Karen Reed's admissions and a media tour, she's trying to rehabilitate her image because of her consciousness of guilt. And they've got that coming in because she knows her own guilt. She's trying to rehabilitate her image. She's out making statements, and they're going to hammer those statements home. You will have juries look at evidence that does not make sense and go, but they said they did it though, and convict. That's a huge danger for Karen Reed, in my opinion. And that seems to be the state's only avenue that they're pushing right now. But
hey, man, I got to step away for a second. So I'm going to pull the court
No
back
problem.
up in case they come back when I'm away. I shouldn't be very long, but just in case.
Sounds great, man.
And I'll leave things in your hands.
My very capable and supple hands. But hey, if you guys disagree with that, of course, feel free.
I'll tell you right now, in a certain sense, I sort of almost feel as if she gets convicted, she's going to be hanged on her own in stupidity with what she did after this accident. I'm not saying that's justice. I'm simply saying that's what's doing it. They're correct. Without those statements, they have nothing. They have so nothing here. And it's almost like she's being punished she would be receiving punishment for basically being an idiot who thinks she knows best, like going on this whole circuit tour instead of keeping her mouth shut. So all right, let's let me pull this up here. Can't reach all. We still got the fan spinning over here. I agree. There's so many questions, but the dog, the marks on his arm, and also like, so now he has contusion on the back of his head and on the front of his and on his eye. So here's the other thing. How do you get an injury from just one pass by of a car to both your eye and your arm? How do you get both of those? Like if his arm hits it, then it's not his eye hitting it. It's not his face hitting the car. I can understand. I guess, I question like, and you don't get in the leg. None of this is, it's very, very confusing. Bulging icons and a basilar skull fracture in the back of the head. That's possible. I don't know enough medicine to know whether or not that's accurate or inaccurate. But it's like the multitude of injuries he has. It doesn't imply to me just one boom, boom, like hit by a car, fall down. He's got an injury in the back of his head. He's got an injury in his eye. He's got an injury in his arm. All this happens from a car hitting him. So you want to tell me the car hits him and he falls backward, hits his head. Okay, that would give me two. That would give me the eye and the back of the head. That could give me the arm and the back of the head. I don't see how you're getting the arm. Now maybe they're gonna say he was dragged, but even if he's dragged, like how? So now he's hit in the eye, and then his arm catches, and then the back of the. This sounds much crazier than he got into a fight, and they basically threw him out in the cold. And I'll tell you this much: if he had got into a fight, let's assume that there was a fight. I'm going to assume they weren't trying to kill him. Okay, he just got into a fight, and the dog jumps in to sees his owner in a fight and jumps in and starts attacking him. And he falls backwards, bangs his head, and basically is pretty much dead. Now you're the cop. You're a bunch of cops in this scenario. You know that you have control over some level of control of the investigation. You feel like he's dead. This is potentially criminal liability and certainly civil liability. Tremendous civil law in the millions of dollars. And he's gone anyway. And you can influence the investigation in dramatic ways. Why would you not drag him outside and leave him there? And that also makes sense why the snowplow guy said, I didn't see anyone there when I did a pass by the house at 3:00 in the morning, which is another thing that they're going to look. The snowplow guy could have missed him, I guess. We'll see how we have to wait probably a month until we get him up on the stand when the defense is putting on their case in chief. But that would explain everything. That would explain everything. And it's a much more logical explanation to me than the state's theory. So, yeah, I'm leaning towards she didn't do it. And the only reason she would be convicted is because she was stupid enough to say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Now, if you're sitting there in the Karen Reed killed him state, you have some questions. Like she seems to recognize him from like a distance, that he's there on the grass in the snow in this dark night. And the fact that she wakes up and says he got hit by a snowplow. I think he got hit by a snowplow. These are all things that just like, what? Why would you be saying that? Why would you be saying that? It doesn't. It's so hard. It's so hard to understand why she would be saying that. Yeah. What? In case you're wondering, this is what we got going on right now. We got Ceiling Dion. And you see, I don't know, when you say Karen started telling lies, let's assume that she left him, he gets out of the car, and she doesn't go in with him. And she's expecting him to go into the house. So he would say, I left him at Albert's house, at Brian Albert's house. You don't mean I escorted him inside. He's not a 6-year-old. I left him at the house there. So that I don't think that sounds to me like a little bit nitpicky. I left him outside the house. Auntie Bev's only fan could be. That's not a bad name. That's not a bad name at all. Let me catch up Pinochet here. Says Massachusetts criminal law requires the defendant to be present at all critical stages and to include sidebar conference. That gives her a right to be there, not a duty. That's the difference. Massachusetts is the first in the nation, after all. It's not my fault New York abstained from signing the Declaration of Independence. They abstained from the vote for independence. I don't think they abstained from signing it. It's very, very confusing. That's what I'm saying. If she would have just stayed in bed that night, if she committed this, which is what we're assuming Brian Albert did, right? He stayed in the house. If she just stayed home that night, she's not even charged. She's not even charged. Nothing. I mean, no one. It becomes a mystery as to like what happened here. But she's likely not even charged. Same. The only justification would be if he was passed out drunk. That's the only, or had been working really hard. I don't know.
All right.
Please be seated. Court is in session.
Could I see counsel for a minute regarding scheduling, please?
Okay, so I'll answer these questions. Okay. First is that's not true. He could have left and try to walk home drunk or whatever and gotten hit by a plow. In other words, that she's like, I'm not saying that this is what she was thinking. I'm saying that that's the answer on the plow question. Is that she knew he was drunk. If he wasn't home when he was supposed to be home taking care of kids. Who's a loving guardian. And he wasn't where he was supposed to be. So that's difficult to understand unless something terrible happened to him. As for the question about being in the cold for several hours, I didn't think that was a big deal at all. If you saw him, he likely looked like he'd been out in the cold for several hours. Probably looked like he hadn't been there for only 5 minutes. So even if she just flew in from another country that day and landed 10 seconds earlier, and you'd see him there, it looks like he's been laying out in the cold for several hours. So to me, that's not anything. They made a big deal about that when Dan Whitley was on there as to whether or not she said be out in the cold for several hours, implying that, how do you know he's been out there for several hours? Well, I looked at him and he was covered in snow. Doesn't look like he's been there for 10 minutes. Could be. Well, now we're left. Now we're left here. I really hope that we're up to we're past all the protocol work of getting stuff admitted for things he's extracted. We can start getting into the juicy stuff of what do we see here.
Jury, please.
Okay, thank you.
In answer to my poll question here, 48% say is a wise move for defendant joint counsel at sidebar. 19% say yes, 47% says no, 33%, 30 you say it doesn't really matter.
All rise in the court, please. Your attention.
And you would say a snowplow, by the way, because no one else is out. Very few cars are out, I guess.
Goes back in session. You may be seated.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, that's glass half full. So I guess only maybe half the jury thinks it's a bad move.
Good afternoon. Just a few more items I'd like you to recognize. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
The jury was coming in. That's why we're at the fan.
Showing you an envelope. Do you know what's in that envelope?
Yes, it's the raw data extraction of John O'Keefe's cell phone.
Your Honor, the assets be marked simply for identification, please.
Okay.
Exhibit A, identification.
Thank you.
Second folder.
Yes, it's the raw data extraction of Jen McCabe's cell phone that I created.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor, the assets be marked for identification as well.
All right.
Exhibit B for identification.
Thank you.
Trooper, you shared with us that you downloaded the extraction of the phones that you identified and you made reports based on specific identified features. For example, a conversation between two people.
Yes, so I didn't do the extraction of Jen's phone, but I made those reports with the PDFs from the data extraction.
Relative to Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant's phones, you created a document that provided us the phone calls between them on January 29th.
Yes, that's correct.
And separately, you also provided a document that included all of the chats or text messages between John O'Keefe and the defendant on January 29th, 2022.
Yes, it also included the 28th.
Thank you.
Yes.
And in that compilation, did you put together or do you create or review a PowerPoint of those?
Yes, I did.
And what was the point of that?
Just to show the texts and calls in a chronological order, because that way you're not looking at two different documents trying to compare and contrast the calls to text messages when each is coming in.
And did you begin that PowerPoint presentation with a call at 2:16:10 on January 28, 2022?
Yes, that's correct.
And are there additional chats or text messages earlier that morning?
Yes, there's a handful starting around 9:45 a.m.
May I
Yes.
approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Handing you a folder, sir. Could you take a look at it? Let us know if you recognize what's in it.
Yes. So this is the bulk of this is the PowerPoint calls and text messages, and then at the beginning, there's the messages from before 2:16 in the morning.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, Your Honor.
Okay.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you.
Exhibit 33.
For permission, I'd ask the witness to read the text messages from the morning hours, and then we begin the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you have a hard copy of those for me?
It was provided. I'll see if you have another copy if you don't have it.
All right, I have, it's in here, the pre-morning hours. The ones that we discussed at sidebar. If you don't have them,
The defense has a copy for you, Your Honor.
thank you.
Madam? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Little.
Okay, thank you.
May we begin, Your Honor?
Please.
Could you first read the text messages from that morning to the jury?
Yes. Apologize if I misspelled things or state things. Start time, all right. It's a little different than the format I had before. All right, this is from Karen Reed to John O'Keefe. You have really hurt me this time. This was sent at 9:49:20 a.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant. I'm sorry, this has been an issue with me for 8 years. It physically hurts me to see everyone else in their life do things for them, and I'm forced to always be the bad guy. This is sent at 10:02:56 a.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'm not the same as everyone else. Most of the time I try to do what is healthy/smart for them. More importantly, I try to support you in what you need. You just lashed out at me and said terrible things. I don't know how you've gotten to this point with me when I'm just trying my hardest. You made your point and continue to beat me down. I have a lot going on too. Physically, I am falling apart and trying to get answers and help. 10:09:49 a.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. I am just your girlfriend. I am not a perfect parent. I'm trying very hard and sometimes treat them nothing like I used to. 10:46 a.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant. I know, I'm sorry for lashing out. I'm just hurting and struggle daily with them. Always feel like I'm failing at this parenting thing. I wasn't built for this. 10:12 a.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. Kaylee isn't perfect, but everything wonderful about her is because of you. 12:21:36 p.m. on the 28th.
This doesn't sound
From John O'Keefe to the defendant.
that
an emoji
terrible
is sent
so far.
at 12:21:59 on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. It's true. I know she's her mother's daughter, but she wouldn't be so bright and successful if she lived with anyone else. 12:22:51 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. Wow, Kristen just sent 2 back-to-back messages to not lose your faith in the kids. 12:31:28 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, or in yourself. 12:31:41 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, there's 2 emojis sent at 12:32:06
Show us the emojis.
From the defendant to John O'Keefe.
Was it an eggplant?
And there's 2
What emoji?
emojis. Life can pick you up sometimes. Please be happy with them and put away your frustrations for the rest of the day. And be so proud of yourself, JJ. That's 12:33:35 p.m. on the 28th.
Is it a winky
From
face?
John O'Keefe to the defendant. That's what bothers me more than anything. Should have sent Peg's or Sarah's W-2s. We're all equal guardians. 1:18:21 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. Maybe you can call someone. 1:21:55 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant. Like who? 1:46:42 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant. What time are you coming here? 1:47:38 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, it's another emoji sent. 2:05:30 p.m. on the 28th.
I need to know what the emojis are. This is
From the defendant to
incomplete
John O'Keefe.
testimony.
I don't know what time. Feel kind of out of it. Just trying to clear my head. 2:06:07 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, he writes, okay. 2:06:25 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, text me when you guys settle in later. 2:06:44 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, sure. 2:06:58 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to, oh, no, it's cut off here, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see anything remotely terrible there at all. Especially with all the emojis that are going on. There's all these emojis.
I believe it goes to the next one, so I'll start. Yeah, sorry.
With
See,
the court's
co-
permission, we'll begin the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Are we going to see the emojis? It's much more effective if we can actually see instead of him
The
reading
phone
it.
calls, text messages. We'll start with the first slide. Just from the defendant to John O'Keefe. I feel pretty shitty about how this morning went down. I know you said sorry, but it really stung, especially when I've been trying pretty hard lately. I feel like a loser turning around, just coming back over after everything you said. 2:10 p.m. on the 28th.
It's actually 5:16 because it's
From John O'Keefe to the defendant.
UTC.
Not sure what you want me to do. He said, I'm sorry.
It's
and I was out of
7:17.
line. If you prefer to stay home, I totally get it. 2:16 p.m. on the 28th.
Oh, no, it is 2:17 p.m. Yeah, I'm wrong.
From the defendant to John O'Keefe. Things in my own life have been difficult too, 2:33 p.m. on the 28th.
This is much better seeing it.
From John O'Keefe to the defendant. I know. 2:40 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:45 p.m., the defendant calls John. The phone call is answered and they speak for 2 minutes, 22 seconds. 2:23:02 p.m., the defendant calls John. That's again answered at 10, and they speak for 1 minute, 2 seconds. At 2:24:17 p.m., the defendant calls John and the call is rejected. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. Tell me if you're interested in someone else. Can't think of any other reason you've been like this. 2:25:18 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant. Nope. 2:25:33 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant. Things haven't been great between us for a while. Ever consider that? 2:26:03 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:28:40 p.m., the defendant calls John. That call is rejected.
Mr. Greeno, can you explain to us the difference between not answered and rejected?
Yes, so if the call is not answered, that means the call rang out and goes to voicemail. If the call is rejected, that is someone actively hitting the send to voicemail button to disable the call to stop it from ringing.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you're angry or hate each other, but she might take it that way.
From John O'Keefe to the defendant, kids are here, not in the mood to talk.
So it could be
2:29:03 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, so you're not into it anymore. That's fine, but I don't want to keep trying and you keep treating me like this. 2:29:12 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'm trying to hug and kiss you this morning and you whack me in the face with a pillow. 2:29:59 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, last night you're basically like, yeah, what about when we talk about the future? So why don't you just admit you're not into so much anymore? 2:23 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, not how it went down, but okay. 2:26 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, can you please admit your head is out of the game with us? 2:52 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. So yeah, I'm not quick to jump back into being lovey-dovey as you apparently. 2:28 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:47 p.m., the defendant calls John. That call is rejected. John O'Keefe to the defendant, OMG, stop calling. 2:54 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, then why would you start with me this morning? 2:58 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, you're setting me up to fail. 2:33:05 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, you started a number of fights from your end. 2:33:26 p.m. on the 28th.
I'm going to tell you this: if your loved one or someone you're in a relationship with tells you need space, in general, it's a wise move to heed that general rule. because this doesn't I forget about whether she heard him or not. At the end of the day, yeah, he's saying give him space. You give him space.
John O'Keefe to the defendant. I've explained it.
It's relevant in the sense of like that the state wants you to think that she was feeling rejected and angry at him, that she was about to lose him. So that's why they got into a fight and she just ran him over. Maybe he dumped her.
Did a few times already, not doing it again. 2:31 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. So you're not into this
That
anymore.
is not true.
2:41 p.m. on the 28th.
That is not true.
For John O'Keefe to the defendant, not into fighting all the time, correct. 2:34:03 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, if you tell me you're interested in someone else, you will never hear from me again. You can have all the space in the world. 2:34:11 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, he sends an emoji. 2:34:19 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, then stop starting with me. 2:34:20 p.m. on the 28th. 2:34:29 p.m. The defendant calls John. He rejects the call. John O'Keefe to Karen, the defendant. I'm not answering. Stop calling. 2:34:42 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, can you please answer after how you treated me earlier? 2:34:43 p.m. on 28th.
This is all in the span of a minute.
2:34:54 p.m. The defendant calls John. That's rejected. John O'Keefe to the defendant. Kaylee is right here. 2:35:02 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. You start a rager with me out of nowhere and then tell me you're sick of fighting with me. 2:35:41 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. I'm going to grab a drink in a bit. 2:38:14 p.m. on the 28th. 2:38:42 p.m. The defendant calls John. That call is rejected. The defendant to John O'Keefe. Can you please answer? 2:38:52 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant. No, Karen. Not sure why you need to announce that you're going. Not sure why you need to announce that you're grabbing a drink, but have fun.
This is every guy this is every guy in a struggling relationship ever. Every guy in a sagging relationship ever.
6 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, seeing if you want to meet me later. 2:40:22 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, can you please call me? 2:40:32 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, have to take them to the doctor. He has practice. 2:40:55 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yeah, 5 minutes. 2:41:17 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:43:01 p.m., the defendant calls John. It's not answered. At 2:43:45 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected. John O'Keefe to the defendant. My father just walked in. 2:43:58 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. Okay, can you please call me for 2 minutes? 2:44:14 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant. Not right now. 2:44:23 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. I'm there when anyone else needs me. 2:44:26 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:45:32 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected. The defendant calls Mr. O'Keefe. Yes, John, you gave me utter grief this morning. I'd like you to call me for amends. 2:46:16 p.m. on the 28th.
Well, these text messages are helping that.
I've been trying to get over the hump with is arguing, and now you tell me you're not into doing things, and you don't want to fight weekly, but fly off the handle at 8 a.m. with me, like you're setting me up to fail. 2:47:08 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. I've been dealing with my own personal crisis over things I have zero control over. I'd like to lean on you too sometimes. Instead, I just hear everything I've done wrong. 2:48:34 p.m. on the 28th. At 2:56 p.m., the defendant calls John. The call is rejected. At 2:51:13 p.m., the defendant calls John. It's rejected. 2:52:37 p.m., John calls the defendant. It's not answered. At 2:53:56, the defendant calls John. Again, not answered.
Wow.
The defendant, John O'Keefe, you seriously cannot pick up the phone for 2 seconds. 2:54:13 p.m. 2:58:05 p.m., the defendant calls John. It's rejected. At 2:59:13, John calls the defendant. The call is answered and they speak for 4 minutes, 59 seconds. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, why don't you meet me at Hillside at 4:30/5, 3:08:55 p.m. John O'Keefe to the defendant sends an emoji at 3:10:08 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, or whenever you get everyone settled, 3:10:35 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, like I said, doctor now, and he has practice till 6. If you want to go start drinking, then go for it.
Go for it.
3:36:21 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe, I didn't know the times of his practice. 3:36:40 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe, I just want to give you space at the house without me there. So rather meet you out than meet at the house. 3:37:01 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, yeah, well, now there's a 72-year-old taking up shop on my couch. 3:37:36 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe, yeah, that too. 3:37:46 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, is he going to Collins? 3:38:23 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, not tonight. 3:38:32 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, so do you plan on going out tonight? 3:39:01 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, Karen, I don't know. 3:39:17 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, you're like jonesing to drink, so go. 3:39:43 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, okay, well, after how this morning went down, I don't think I need to be back over there with you. Get frustrated at how I am with the kids. Has nothing to do with drinking. 3:40 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I am paranoid now that everything I do with them is problematic. So rather see you for a minute without it, kids around. 3:40:24 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, what's your plan at 4:47:16 p.m. on the 28th? From the defendant to John O'Keefe, don't have one. 4:50:09 p.m. on the 28th. For John O'Keefe to the defendant, so still home. 4:50:26 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe, yes. 4:50:45 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, we just got home, waiting to see what Papa decides here, or else I have to get Patrick at 6. 4:59:45 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant, John O'Keefe, okay. 5:01:55 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, so are you staying home or coming here? 5:02:23 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, waiting to see what you end up doing. I don't want to hang out at the house too much, like I said. 5:03:40 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I think it's clear me around the kids, I think it's clear me around with the kids around is slowly killing our relationship, and our relationship is much more important to me. 5:04:16 p.m. on the 28th.
Seems a little self-involved.
John O'Keefe to the defendant. Well, there's a blizzard coming, so we'll be inside all weekend. 5:04:19 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. It will be over by noon tomorrow. 5:04:44 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant. Don't think so. 5:05:27 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. I don't want to keep having this constant conflict of the dynamic of the four of us. The harder I try, the more it kills our relationship as a couple. It feels like utter shit to be in that position. Rather just meet you out for drinks when you figure out what your night looks like. 5:06:45 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant. Well, I have no idea what's going on, so do what you want. 5:07:34 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant. Need to figure out what everyone here is doing. All I know now is Madeline is coming over. No clue about Patrick yet, or if Papa is planning on hanging it for a few more hours. 5:09:29 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. Okay, well, when you know the story and if you want me to come up, let me know. 5:12:36 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant. No, Karen, you decide what you want to do. 5:13:18 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. I know your heart isn't in this anymore. I felt it for a while and especially lately. I'm willing to try more, but not if you approaching the point of indifference. If you want me to come up and you can head out for a while, then say so when you know what your father is doing. 5:14:23 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant. You come up and I head out. Really? Emoji. 5:15:48. John O'Keefe to the defendant. I've told you already, I don't bounce back as quickly as you do after we have a battle. 5:16:52 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. No, head out together with an emoji. 5:17:49 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. Or meet out. 5:17:54 on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant. Gonna send Patrick to Collins tonight. They're picking him up around 7. Mike may hang out too when he brings Matt over. So why don't you just come over? 5:19:42 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. Mike doesn't want to go out for a bit. 5:20:20 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. I would like to. Been a shit day from the jump. 5:20:33 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, probably 5:20:39 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, I just got sober an hour ago. 5:20:56 p.m. on the 28th.
He was drunk before?
From the
He was
defendant to
texting
John
all day?
O'Keefe, I'll text you. Hang with Mike for a few. I don't need to butt in. Text me if/when you think you may head out. 5:25:12 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, can you send me Tim Zoll's contact info, please? 5:26:38 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, I paid the last bill. 5:27:08 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, you didn't have to do that, thanks. 5:27:43 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, are you really not going to accept my friend request? 5:32:33 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, an emoji on what, FB? 5:33:01 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yeah, we've been going out for 2 years. 5:33:20 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, I haven't gone on. You defriended me over a year ago, I believe. 5:33:48 p.m. on the 28th.
It's funny.
From the defendant to John O'Keefe, Kerry texted that they're headed out in a bit. 6:05, 29 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, okay, 6:14, 55 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, she's going to let me know where. 6:17, 51 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, so you're going to meet them 6:18, 12 p.m. on the 28th.
No, I'm not. Gonna,
From the defendant,
I think this is a very important element for the state to try and establish motive. They're trying to establish motive here. How do you know that they were in a fight? How do you know that she was mad at him at all? This is how. This is from the state's perspective is critical.
and to John O'Keefe, just presenting it as an option. Wouldn't mind hanging out with them for a drink. 6:19 p.m.
And also,
on the
it makes her
28th.
look psycho.
From the defendant to John O'Keefe, is Mike over? 6:27, 26 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, yes. 6:29, 45 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, sounds you're like good with getting together tonight. 6:31, 32 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, was hoping after this morning you'd be interested in smoothing things over with me. 6:32, 24 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, told you to come over, but you insisted on meeting me out somewhere. 6:33, 44 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, Mike is a little off with me for a while now. I've said that multiple times. 6:34, 34 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to Karen, the defendant, time to get over it, Karen. He's fine. He was fine the other night when he came by. 6:38:09 p.m. on the 28th.
I think Mike Camerano, who we heard from earlier today.
From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yeah, wouldn't mind hanging out with other people, like
I heard
another
that right.
female too. 6:39:09 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, where are you meeting them? 6:39:28 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I don't have plans with them. She just said they're headed out in a bit and will text when they land somewhere. 6:39:52 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, if you want to go out with Mike solo, that's fine. Just let me know. 6:40:17 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, I already told you what you should do. Not going to keep doing this. 6:41:07 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I asked to let me know if you guys are going to head out. I haven't been out for drinks this week and had a shit week and a shit day. And I dread Kaylee or Pat is going to get chatty with me the second I walk in, and that is going to irritate you. 6:43:21 on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, Pat is leaving. Kay is with Mad Cam. 6:44:02 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, I'll text Chris then. 6:46:44 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, we're headed out shortly. What's your plan, Karen? 7:06:13 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, do you want me to join or no? 7:06:37 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, yes, wasn't sure if you were meeting the Currans. 7:07:04 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, they are not out drinking yet. 7:07:40 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, where are you headed? 7:09:22 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, trying to decide maybe McCarthy's. 7:14:48 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, Okay, then let me know where you decide. I'm still down in Enfield. 7:21:50 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, text me when you leave. Still waiting on McKinney's. 7:22:28 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'm having issues with my hot water, so had to text someone to take a look. 7:24:11 p.m. on the 28th.
The plumber. Enter the plumber.
John O'Keefe to the defendant, an emoji, you trying to piss me off. 7:25:35 on the 28th.
This is what Mike Camerata was talking about.
John O'Keefe to the defendant, hope your plumber buddy that you texted is hot.
Oh, he is.
7:26:24 p.m.
He is jealous of the plumber coming over. This is not about wasting money. This is a matter of her having a guy over. So that means he's not done. He's not done with her. If he's still jealous, he's not done with her.
From the defendant to John O'Keefe, nope, my shower
No, I
only
don't
got
think so.
lukewarm, and now my sink won't run hot at all. The plumber I used to use is right down the road. 7:26:27 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I turned that temp thing in the basement all the way up. 7:26:52 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, check the hot water heater and see if it's leaking. 7:26:52 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe, it's not. 7:26:59 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, don't do that. 7:27:01 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, is the pilot lit? 7:27:08 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I was trying to get my shower hot. 7:27:12 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yes, 7:27:14 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, don't turn it up. Don't turn it all the way up. 7:27:26 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, it will burn out. 7:27:32 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I had this issue twice before and it wasn't a disaster. I just can't remember what the cause was. 7:27:41 on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, just turn it back to where it was and get over here. 7:28:08 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I don't want to come home in a blizzard and then really be up shit creek. 7:28:53 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, so you're going home tonight? 7:29:18 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to
Yeah.
John O'Keefe,
He's not done with her. If he's saying he's expecting her to come over, he's not done with her. No, this actually helps her, this part now.
or tomorrow or whenever. I've had a chill all day since my shower. 7:29:45 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, it's going to snow all day tomorrow. No driving. 7:30:05 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, we're headed to McCarthy's. 7:41:29 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, okay, let me know if you end up leaving. 7:41:57 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, why? Now you're not coming. 7:42:27 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'm waiting for the plumber. I actually think he's in the driveway. 7:42:56 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, we're taking Mike's car, so I'm relying on you for a ride home if he leaves. 7:43:10 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, he's not going home after. 7:43:27 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, 8 o'clock on a Friday, emoji. 7:43:31 p.m. on the 28th.
Winky emoji.
John O'Keefe to the defendant, he may have to get Michael. 7:43:46 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, you have a plumber coming over at 8. Knowing me and Papa could have handled it. Good luck. 7:44:36 p.m. on the 28th.
I don't think that's him being mad about spending money. I think he's jealous about some plumber dude kind of thing. That's what that is. But he doesn't want to say that. So instead he's saying, you could have just had me come over and save the money. And he didn't complain to Mike Camerano about that. He was jealous because that's pride. That's pride. Pride. That's pride. That's what that is. But yeah, I think he was jealous about her having some dude over. He's not done with her. He's not
defendant to John O'Keefe. I have always told you I will not put either of you out of your way the way everyone else in your life does. I knew it wasn't working right when you were at the doctor's with Kaylee, and I knew neither of you could get here. And this guy
100%, brother.
Last time, whatever
They're
it
both
was,
playing.
he was supposed to be here at 7:48:01 p.m. on the 28th.
It's not a threat to his manhood. He doesn't like her having a guy over.
If it's not a quick fix, I'll tell him to forget it. 7:48:20 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant. If you need a new water heater, don't let him do it. 7:55:04 p.m. on the 28th.
See, even the all caps on the don't here. This is telling me he still has plans with this woman. He does. He's not dumping her tonight. No, I don't buy he's dumping her. Because he wouldn't have concerns. It would be indifferent. Not like a desperate, don't let him do it. No, you see, that's the opposite of love is not hate. It's indifference. And he's definitely not indifferent. He's aggravated, frustrated with her as, hey, if I read his text messages, I don't like her very much anymore. But I'll tell you that he's not through with it.
This is from the defendant to John O'Keefe. He's here now. If it's not quick, I'm not doing it. I just want to make sure nothing is wrong / will go wrong with when I'm not home. 7:55:44 on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. He's not a scammer. Half the quick stuff he doesn't even charge me for. 7:56:06 p.m. on the 28th. The defendant to John O'Keefe. He just put the toilet seats on crooked. 7:56:28 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant. Status 8:09:02 p.m. on the 28th. And the defendant to John O'Keefe. Still here with an emoji. 8:09:18 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe. Said he's got to go to HD and probably be back mañana. 8:23:56 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant. So 8:24:43 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, an emoji. 8:25:02 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, just trying to figure out if I need to be here. 8:25:51 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, what does it need? 8:26:01 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I don't know. He showed me some pieces that was all rusted. With an emoji. I don't understand half this stuff. 8:26:42 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant on the water heater. 8:26:59 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yes. 8:27:08 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, tell him to leave it. I'll take care of it Sunday or Monday. 8:28:30 p.m. on the 28th.
Yeah, plumber not charging a single woman.
From the defendant to John O'Keefe, no, it's okay. I can either meet him here or just shut off the alarm. 8:28:52 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, he used to work here while I was at work. 8:29:02 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, does he realize it will be whiteout conditions tomorrow a.m.? 8:29:32 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, yeah, but he lives right down the road. 8:29:47 p.m. on the 28th.
That's not making him happier.
From John O'Keefe to the defendant, Karen, this storm is going to be intense. Can't drive. 8:30:19 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, okay, well, if he can't, he can't. 8:30:36 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, I'll do it Monday, 8:56 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I better not still have this problem on Monday, 8:22 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, you plan on being there, 8:43 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I too know I can take a hot shower there here if I need to, 8:14 p.m. on the 28th. Figured you'd be, from John O'Keefe to the defendant, figured you'd be in Canton until Monday, 8:32 p.m. on the 28th. From John O'Keefe to the defendant, I'm getting off my phone. Let me know what you're doing, 8:54 p.m. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I think the four of us together is toxic to this relationship. Would like to limit it, 8:16 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, you've said so yourself for probably a year now, 8:52 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, blizzard tomorrow, nobody is going anywhere, 8:56 p.m. on the 28th.
So it's going to be the four of us.
From the defendant to John O'Keefe, maybe I'll come back late tonight. Bad snow is in the early a.m., 8:14 p.m. on the 28th. From the defendant to John O'Keefe, I'll head up there in a few min. Let me know if you leave, 8:26 p.m. on the 28th. John O'Keefe to the defendant, an emoji, he says, sure, 8:34 p.m. on the 28th. That was the last of them.
So they're both children. That's what we got from that. And no, they were not breaking up that night. They fight.
And you can feel free to stand.
Okay, thank you, Honor.
So that presentation is a compilation of text messages and phone calls between John O'Keefe and the defendant on January 28, 2022.
Yes, that was.
Aside from that compilation, are there other text messages and phone calls that you've reviewed between John O'Keefe and the defendant that evening, January 28, 2002, going into past midnight, January 29, 2022?
Yes, there's more text messages.
And those text messages and phone calls, are they a separate compilation from this?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, at this time, I'd ask us to release Trooper Guarino and recall him at a later date.
Yes. All right. There's no objection, Mr. Alessi, correct?
No objection, subject to the bench.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Trooper. We'll see you another time.
Thank you, Honor. You can just leave it. Thanks.
All right. Oh, wait.
Is this the time for me to see counsel at sidebar? Okay. Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to introduce exhibits or clips 7 through 11.
Thank you.
With the court's permission, could I begin with clip 7?
Yes.
When you walked out of the bar, how many drinks had you had?
I had probably about 4, and not 4 that I completed either. I didn't drink maybe more than a few sips at the waterfall.
And 4 drinks you felt fine to drive?
Yep.
Clip 8, please.
Okay.
And is the level of intoxication pretty high here for everybody?
It's happy.
Yeah.
It's
You had a lot to drink, right?
I wouldn't say I have like a normal amount. Let's say like a vodka tonic every 40 minutes.
Okay. And so are you feeling like buzzed? And I'm not judging, I'm just trying to get a
Yeah,
sense.
buzzed.
Yeah.
Clip 9, please.
The final count my alcohol intakes, probably about 5 or 6 or 4. The drinks that they were pouring me at McCarthy's, which is where I consumed most of the alcohol, was the weakest vodka tonic. It tasted just like old soda water with lime. Not that I need it to be a martini, but it might have had a splash of vodka in it. So I said, John, this drink tastes like it has no vodka in it. He said, just get a shot and mix it yourself. So each drink was being counted as a double. So I would get a vodka tonic and then I would pour a shot into it. So that would count as 2. But frankly, it just felt like a regular cocktail. It was just a really weak pour. So I asked for a shot. So for my taste, it just tasted like that's the normal strength of what a drink should be. So I had maybe 2 or 3 that are being counted as 4 and 6. And I don't know. I felt fine. I felt like I was buzzed. And then there was one drink, the last one that was given to me, which I would have counted as 3, but they're counting as my 6th cocktail. The guys that we were with brought around the shots, and they gave me one that I didn't drink, but I poured it in my drink. So that's now my 5th and 6th drinks, with the 7th, which is a shot that all the men did, and I poured it. So that one glass that I'm holding, that I go into the waterfall with, has 3 drinks in it, a vodka tonic and 2 shots. And which is why John said to me, you're not leaving that drink here, like you haven't touched it and just poured a bunch of vodka. He's like, just take it with you, which is something he always did. So then I go into waterfall and I put that drink down and I socialize most of the time. So that would have been my 5th, 6th, and 7th drinks. Then John orders me a drink at the waterfall that I don't drink, that he takes with him. And then there was a round of shots that Chris Howard bought that I did take. So that would have been the night. But I did not consume 9 vodka martinis or take 9 shots, depending on how you count it. And the last 2 drinks I didn't touch.
Clip 10, please.
Okay. I don't know if that helps the state.
And I'm not as clear as I would be if I hadn't been drinking. I mean, I had drank, so, and that led me to question, like, could I have hit him? Did I run over his foot or hit him in the knee? Did I incapacitate him? I mean, I always drive with my music blasting ever since I was 16. And I know when John got out of the car to go into Fairview, I know my car was blasting because when I got in it the next morning to go look for him, I had to immediately turn it down. And I don't know, it's stormy. I have had a few cocktails. I didn't black out, but I wasn't as lucid as I would have been if I had gone to bed at 9 and drank a tea. But so I was fuzzier than I would have been if I had had no alcohol.
Clip 11, please.
I wouldn't have gotten on the expressway. I wouldn't have gotten on the expressway at 12:15 on January 29th. I mean, it was quiet. The roads were very quiet. You can see it on the videos. And I was going, you know, when I've had a few drinks and I drive, I always drive extra slow. So I know my alerts aren't as sharp as they should be. But I shouldn't have been driving. But I don't think I was driving. I know I wasn't driving recklessly. I mean, I've got plenty of video of myself driving all over the place. I put my car in John's garage, which is incredibly narrow, and I had a very oversized SUV. You see me, there's a video of me driving through the intersection when we leave Waterfall to go to Brian Albert's, and I was always taught by my father, even when you have a green light, you always should tap the brake. You don't know who's going to run red. And I see me doing that multiple times between 12 and 1 and 5 and 6 a.m. So I know I was driving safely, not as safely or as alert as I would be if I had no alcohol. But I was not driving recklessly by
Your may we approach?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, they're trying to show that she basically was illustrious. She was drunk, and that's, she was. I think that her explanation there actually sounds kind of legitimate. I saw someone was asking me about them playing clips of her. I mentioned this in the past, and I'll probably mention it several more times. Exception to hearsay, that's actually considered, I think, non-hearsay, is when you have an admission or a statement against interest by a party opponent. And even though she doesn't have to testify, that was the Fifth Amendment, she has the choice to testify, so they can use it. And if she chooses not to rebut it, they're allowed to use it.
All right, jurors, there was some confusion with counsel regarding witnesses. So those are the witnesses for today, so we're done for today. Counsel assures me that won't happen again, but more importantly,
We're done for today?
On track. We're on schedule, not going for the rest of the day, won't interfere with our schedule at all. Looks like it's, I can't tell with all the curtains here, but it looks like it's a beautiful day. You'll have
We're done for today?
Tomorrow we'll be going on a view. So for that, we're comfortable close. We'll be walking around a little bit. We'll be going by bus, and I'll have more instructions for you tomorrow morning. But
Whoa.
those instructions,
We're going on a viewing.
discuss this case with
We're not
you
going to
all,
have
but
that,
do
right? We're not going to have
independent
video of that.
Research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, read anything about this case,
I think she said a
please
view.
describe it and let us know, and we'll see you tomorrow.
That's why she said we're comfortable close. We're
All rise
over.
for the court, please.
Oh my gosh.
Close your notebooks and follow me.
Oh my gosh. Didn't see that coming. Are we done for the week? We're not going to have video when they're going on a viewing. They're going on an outing. Yeah, they're going on a field trip. Wow.
Jury is exited the courtroom.
All right. Mr. Brennan, have you had an opportunity to think about whether experts should be permitted to either be present or watch the proceeding? And I also want to know, are you expecting to put on any expert testimony tomorrow?
There's going to be testimony
Dr.
tomorrow?
Fowler will testify tomorrow. I think that should be considered expert testimony. He
Oh, maybe in the afternoon.
provides the procedures and protocol for the testing of blood serum.
Okay.
So I think he's technically considered an expert, although one of the briefer ones.
All right. Does the defense want an expert to be able to watch that? All right. So I know we've had a lot going on this morning. Do you want to address this tomorrow? When do you want to address whether experts should be present?
I can address it tomorrow morning. I can
All
consider
right.
it.
We'll do that. And have you talked about who you all mean? Like, do you all know who you want to have exempt from the sequestration order?
We haven't got to that detail. I'm sure they have in mind who they want. I haven't gotten to that point yet.
All right.
We can have that discussion so that we can present it tomorrow what my position is and address the court on the witnesses.
Sure, we can do that. And then I know you said that you've got an agreement that you'll provide witnesses or a list of witnesses in advance to defense counsel, and I'm sure you'll provide witnesses in advance to Mr. Brennan. Include me on that, please. I just like to know
Very
who's
well.
coming up the next day because I have to prepare as well.
Happy to. Thank you.
Okay? All right, so we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you again.
All rise.
So I think what I'm taking from this is we are going to have testimony tomorrow morning. We're obviously done for today, but we are going to have testimony tomorrow morning. And then after, at some point, I don't know, before lunch, during lunch, after lunch, they're going to be going on a viewing. As some people are saying, it's going to be at the location where his body was found. So, and we're probably going to have, I don't expect them to televise that portion of it. I'd be very surprised if they televise the field trip. So we'll probably have half a day tomorrow. That's what I'm assuming. So that's what I'm assuming is going to happen. But I think we are done for today. I think that we have. I think we've gotten all we've gotten. What I'll tell you that I took from today's testimony, primarily what we got is those text messages. My overarching feeling about this exchange here, as far as what we saw, is when he's drunk, he's basically, in the, not sober, because I don't consider really drunk when you're in the last stages of your drunkenness. They should have different names for when someone is drinking. This is because, like, you're drinking, you start getting buzzed, then you get drunk, and you're like all happy, whatever. Or some people, that's how at least the stages I'll go through is I'll get all happy, and then you start going into your come down phase, and then you're into your like post. There's like 5 phases of the whole drinking thing, and everyone just says drunk, but it's really not a fair way of saying it. You know what I'm saying? So, when he's not quite sober yet, he starts having those inner talks with himself of why the hell am I with this woman? And then when he sobers up, he's like, yeah, I'm not ready to let her go. I don't want her hanging out with plumbers. Why is she not showing up here? What's going on? So to me, now they had been drinking that night. Maybe he had gone back into his angry phase as his drunk of like angry and frustrated with this relationship at 1:00 in the morning when they're sitting in the driveway there. It's possible. I don't know. But none of us know. I don't think any of us will ever know. But I will tell you that if you understand relationships, and I don't know how well Karen understands it because she clearly seems to miss a lot of cues. Like when someone is saying, give me space, stop calling, it's stupid. It's self-defeating to try barreling through that the way she was trying to do. But he seemed kind of immature in some of his responses there also. I think that they both are lacking in some sort of levels of maturity. But it's lacking awareness as to like how to handle a situation with someone you're dating. But I think that I think I can definitely understand why it is that people want to see that. There's this sort of hunger for gossip. I can understand that it definitely doesn't portray. It makes her look relentlessly aggressive. That she has that ability to be relentlessly aggressive. If you're the state, you definitely want the jury to see that part of her. But if you read between the lines and you're familiar with dating, to me, this is fairly obvious that he definitely was not on the verge of dumping her. Not at all. He wouldn't be basically ultimately saying, come to McCarthy's, which is what he was saying, reliant on her for a ride. You don't dump someone and leave yourself stranded with no car. Oh, yeah, I'm sitting here in Brian Albert's driveway in the middle of a freaking blizzard, and I'm dumping you. I have no way to get home. I'm dumping. No, you don't do that. No one does this. No one does that. He does not seem like he's an idiot. So, yeah, I don't think he dumped her there in the driveway. You just wouldn't do that. You'd wait till you get home. He's inviting her, saying so. He seems upset that she's not going to be that she made plans not to spend the night by him during those text messages. So first he's like, "Leave me alone. Stop pestering me. Stop pestering me." Wait, you're not sleeping over? And she clearly is like, I don't want to be around your kids because it's just toxic for our relationship. Doesn't really go well in that dynamic there. So that's why I want to be like hanging out with you. And he's like, look, we got a blizzard coming. I'm going to be around these kids all weekend. I'm not sending them out anywhere. It's a freaking blizzard. So deal with it. And come on over here. Like, wait, you're not going to be sleeping over? So yeah, this seems to me as if like he's definitely not dumping her. There's no way. The state's trying to sell me on that. No, there's no way he is. He wouldn't be telling her, don't waste your money. And what I think is a front for the fact that he just didn't want her hanging out with some potentially hot plumber And then he's going to tell his friend, I don't want the plumber coming over there because I could do it. Why waste the money? He's saying, yeah, if it was a chick, he wouldn't be as bothered about the money. She certainly seems, based on the gift she's spending, that she's not worried about the money. So it's not about wasting the money. No, that's what guys say because they're embarrassed to admit that they're jealous. So that's the sort of thing that we would say. I also think it's very possible that she was playing mind games with him. We're going to hear about this Officer Higgins guy and just telling him about the whole, she's definitely into the mind games stuff because we see, think about this for a second. She has to tell him about the plumber and this whole thing going on. Oh yeah, my plumber from down the road who does stuff for me for free is coming on by here. Like, what? A lot of guys would be like, wait, what? Some plumber from down the street is coming to hang out at your house and doing stuff for you for free. I'm supposed to be like totally cool with that. Yeah, I'm not so cool with that. Because you know that when a guy's doing that, he's likely trying to make a play. That's what you just kind of think. So I don't know. You sort of, and the fact that he's jealous about it means he still has some sort of levels of feelings. And that even if he was frustrated all day and saying, leave me the F alone, he still doesn't want her to actually leave and go away. So, but I do think it's possible she was playing some sort of mind games with him. Wait, really? Really? No, I don't know. They're both insecure and playing mind games, and she was relentless. She was like, and it's between like 2:25 and 2:40. I think there was like 20 text messages and 9 phone calls. Why aren't you picking up? Why aren't you friending me on Facebook? That was hilarious to me. He's like, you unfriended me like a year ago. So what do you? It's so high school. Oh my god. But do you like me? Do you like do you like me or do you like me? Good times. Yeah. So I definitely see why they had that on there. It makes sense. It makes sense to throw those text messages up there. I just don't think it proves nearly what the state seems to think because I was once in high school. I understand how this stuff works. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's obviously not. She's driving a Lexus. She's throwing money at kids. She obviously has assets. She obviously has means. He's not worrying about her money. He just doesn't want. He doesn't want this cementing of a service guy coming to her house. That's what this is. But he's not going to say that to Mike Camerano. Instead, he's going to say, I don't want her wasting the money. Why would she waste the money? Now, it could be. You might say to me, no, it's emasculating for her to have someone else do it instead of him doing it. That's what some people would say. It's not the case, though. It's almost never that case. Almost never. If he was there in the house with her, then it would be potentially emasculating. We need some guy to do this. Why can't I do it? Yeah. Anyhow, let me do a quick check over in Rumble, make sure I missed nothing. Quick check. I'm on Rumble. I do have a couple here in Rumble. Let's see what we got going on here. Peanut just says, as a Massachusetts plumber myself, would. Oh, you would come over and help? All right. Okay. I should clarify that. You likely would. I could picture someone going over helping like some old lady. And I guess in theory, you could do something nice for someone who happens to be a young single lady. If you were dating that young single lady, you would be suspicious as to the motivations. You would be. State pulled me over, asked why I'm speeding. I told him I'm a proctologist with a unique ability to stretch the anus. I'm not reading this. I'll bring it up on the screen. There you go. And there you go. Then he asks what you do with this. I don't know what you would. I have no idea. I told him, you stick him on the highway and give him a radar gun. Oh. What do you do with the 6-foot a-hole? You stick him on the highway and give him a radar gun. Nice. That's funny. That's pretty funny. What do you do with the 6 foot? 6 inch. That ruins everything. What the heck's happening here? What do you do with a 6 foot a-hole? Oh, you'd be sticking on a highway and give a radar gun. Nice. That's pretty good. It took me a second. I was very slow on the uptake on that one. I'm sorry, Pinochet. I was very, very slow on that one. All right. All right. So, but the other thing that I really, I'm as the more I'm thinking about it, I don't understand how he got all of those injuries. The scratches, the eye wound. If you're getting hit by a car swiping by you, you either get the scratches, which I don't see how that would happen. And I don't see how the fixture would explode outwards and start scratching him. It would go inward. You wouldn't have shards inside of you. That's almost like impossible. Try hitting a glass and having it pop outward. Just show me how that happens, because I don't see how that would happen. And then I don't even think it would shatter if it hit something flat. It would have to hit something like a hammer. You need like a smaller thing. Like, I don't see how that would shatter like that. I don't know, maybe. Not if it's hitting like someone's clothing. It would sort of feel like it gets banged in. And like sort of like stay in place kind of shatter thing. I don't know. But which part is giving him the arm injury and the eye injury? I mean, you can't even get your arm in that position. It's on this thing. So it's the inside of the arm. So I don't know what's happening here. And it's much bigger than the radius of the glass. And then have it on the back of the head. None of this makes sense to me. I don't see how that's possible from what's been described here. You asked me what I think is most likely to have happened. I think he got into a fight in that place. I think she might have thought she hit him. I think she might have had concerns that she hit him. Like she whizzed by him. I think that's very possible. And maybe that's why she was afraid that maybe she had hit him afterwards. But his injuries don't look like he got hit. No bruising? How do you not have any bruises other than his eye? What do you think? He hit that thing in his eye? He would have shards in his eye, if anything, not in his arm. None of this makes sense. The injuries are totally inconsistent with a car striking him. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. All right. Anyway, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. We're done for today. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. And I'm also going to be streaming, God willing, tonight. So make sure you catch that. Goodlogic.locals.com, goodlogic.locals.com, goodlogic.locals.com. That's where you're going to find me streaming tonight. And then we'll be back here tomorrow morning. So make sure you don't miss that. I'm on out of here. Thank you for joining me. Godspeed.